So Dr. Karen Kan, she's a doctor of light medicine, the founder of Tolpacan, I hope I say that correctly, healing method, and the Academy of Light Medicine. She empowers spiritually conscious, sensitive souls to harness their intuiting, healing, and manifesting superpowers. Working with Dr. Karen and Tolpacan, healing is like being tapped into a spiritual supercomputer. And as an expert in light medicine, Dr. Karen is a little like Yoda from Star Wars, training you to become a self-healing Jedi master. I love that. I love that. And she is like that. She is kind of like that. She's just a wealth of like yummy knowledge all the time. So, hey, Karen.
Hello, hello. Good thing my skin's not green, but
no, I'm glad.
Otherwise, I identify with Yoda.
You look beautiful, and I love the scenery behind you. That's so great.
Thank you. Thank you for Marion and Kathy in the comments. That's really awesome. My peeps.
You've got some great people. Guys, first of what I want to do here is say thank you. You know, you're a big supporter of IAUSM and building our community. So thank you for that. And I think that we are blessed to have you because you have this great way of sharing information and the things that people really need to know about. So thank you so much for that. So you work with sensitive souls. Who are they and what problems do they have?
Yeah. So, highly sensitive people comprise about 30% of the population. That's a lot. And that was a study by Elaine Aron and her colleagues in 2018. And back, I believe in the 70s, early 80s, they had a study that was about 20%, but it has grown. And the funny thing is like, Kathy and I do a lot of divine muscle testing and dowsing and that kind of thing. When I was writing my book, so the Sensitivity is Your Superpower book, I said, oh gosh, I need to find this study, right? So I emailed their people because I couldn't find the annotation for the study. In the meantime, I'm asking source through muscle testing. Okay, so the study said 20%, but really, like, I feel like there's more and more and more people with greater and greater empathy, and their abilities are expanding. This is what that I've seen throughout the world from my clients and students. So I asked source, well, what really is the percentage? It was something like 31 or something like that. I was like, wow, okay, so it's not 20, it's 31. But of course, in the book, I needed to have the actual science and the annotation of the study. So I waited for the people. It took a number of weeks, but they said, okay, here's the study. They didn't know I was meaning the one they did before. I didn't know they had done one in 2018. The one in 2018 said 30%. So I was like, yes. Yeah. So I was like right on the money. I was like,
that just means more and more of us are becoming sensitive and empaths.
Right. So a lot of people identify as empaths. I have a slightly different definition of an empath because an empath to me is someone who not only feels other things outside of themselves very deeply in their bodies, but for me, I call it a functioning empath, meaning that they automatically transform and transmute the negative energy that they are feeling as well. So you might go as an empath, some of you are nodding your head, you go to the grocery store, you pass by, the chip aisle to get to the water aisle, whatever, and there's a guy there, right? And you pass by him and all of a sudden you start feeling drained and horrible. And then what's happening sometimes with empaths, especially what I call functioning empaths, is that as they meet and deal with people, and it can be virtual as well, it does not have to be, physical, close physical proximity, they can literally start taking on that person's stuff and healing it. Now, is that appropriate or not appropriate? Well, I found a way using divine muscle testing and my Tolpacan healing method to ask specific questions around that. So for some people, it actually is appropriate. It's part of their mission to do that. On the other hand, sometimes it is, but only for certain things. Like, for example, I was a functioning empath for Mother Earth. So it was not appropriate for me to transform and transmute all energies for everyone that I was meeting in the day, or even a place. So some people will go into a, say they go into the funeral home or something like this. This happened to be when my father-in-law passed away. It was, wow, okay, there's a lot of spirits there, and there was a lot of dark energies there as well for whatever reason. And so of course I could feel it, and I immediately tested it. In fact, when the funeral director came in the home with the guys, with the what do they call that? The stretcher.
Right.
Yeah, I was like, oh, I better test them because they just looked dark to me. And so, yeah, sure enough, they had negative energy attached to them. We followed some of those entities, had to clear them, clear the place. So some people, it is very appropriate for them to be, and others not. So that's where that discernment comes in. And so what I love to do is teach people to have that discernment. And, Kathy teaches dowsing. I teach divine muscle testing. And in the Light Warrior training camp that's coming up, and IAUSM folks have actually a $100 discount coupon for that. We are really going to dive deep into divine muscle testing so people can have that tool as a discernment tool for their sensitivity.
Okay, so I'm just going to just stop you for 1 second here. You're just like so full of lots of information. I love it. But I just, again, as you know, I always listen to the people who are listening so that I can just sort of bring some clarity to some of the things that you're saying, which is amazing. For those who don't know, let's break it down. What is an empath?
So an empath is someone who feels things that's outside of themselves. Sorry, I said that really fast in a very long run-on sentence. But an empath is someone who feels energies, feelings, emotions of other people, places, and things that is outside of who they really are. But sometimes they don't have that discernment to know. But most empaths, I would say, know that they're sensitive. So when they watch the news, they feel horrible. They feel it's draining. They start crying. They can't help themselves. It's just like, it happens. Not all sensitive souls are empaths, though. And this is where that functioning empath thing comes in, because a number of years ago, I was sitting on a plane and I had the stomach pain. And I thought, that's really weird. I don't know what happened. So, of course, I do my thing and I muscle test. What's going on? And I got that I no longer needed to be an empath, but I'm highly sensitive. Yeah, that's a skill set, that's like your gift. So that's not going to change, but I didn't need to be an empath from Mother Earth specifically. So it was like a separation, and I had this weird stomach thing. It only lasted a few minutes, but it was sad as well. Like a goodbye. It was really weird. So at that moment that I had that realization, a beautiful sunset occurred like on the outside of the plane. I took a picture, and I just happened to, when I landed, I posted it up and go, anybody else having weird symptoms? Sure enough, this whole slew of people were all getting basically discharged from their duties of being an empath for whatever. And they were all having stomach issues. And they were like, oh my gosh, once I realized what you said, the symptoms went away. So yeah, there's some complexity in terms of the empath, but it's kind of a general term we use for people who are sensitive and feel other people's stuff.
Now, this has a lot to do with, so empathy is one of my I love about, reading and everything about empaths. So empathy has also got something very strong to do with our mirror neurons in our brain, right? So are you aware of that?
Sorry, I didn't hear the brain. I heard brain, and then what
the
mirror,
our mirror neurons.
Oh, okay. No. Yeah, so that's great. That's cool.
Right. So it's just basically, so the mirror neurons in our brain. So for those of you who are not more spiritually minded, a little bit more want the science piece of the empath. So mirror neurons in our brain are something that we we all have. It helps us to copy and learn behaviors and stuff, as we're kids, we pick up things, do this. We do everything through our mirror neurons. I'm just making it really basic right now. And 31%, as Karen said, I thought it was the 20. So you've doused it. So or tested it. So it's 31%, which makes sense, is the population of our world. And what that really means is that some of us have very overactive mirror neurons. They're working overtime. So that means we're mirroring other people's behaviors, their emotions, not their behaviors, their emotions or their physical symptoms as well. So for some, when they start to realize this about themselves, it moves from a curse to a gift, because all of the things that they've been feeling now make sense to them. So it's really great to be able to work with your empathy and understand all the beautiful things that you can actually do with it, rather than moving into a deep depression that doesn't belong to you, or feeling pains in your body that don't belong to you, and just being able to go, oh, okay, and learn through methods like Karen has on how to deal with that, like how to regulate that.
Yeah, I call it harnessing your superpowers. So exactly what you said, some of the symptoms that I see a lot of now, I'm a medical doctor as well. So people come to me for, not, I don't do medicine, I'm retired, but at least some of the physical stuff they ask me about is that you're absolutely right. The pain is there. Autoimmune is very, very common for various biological 3D reasons, as well as mental, emotional reasons. And in my case, energetic reasons that I deal with. And then depression, anxiety. In fact, I think when this whole 2020 pandemic thing hit, unless who I call sensitive soul or empaths had a strategy and were already harnessing their superpowers, they had a really, really bad time. And a good friend of mine who's a nurse actually had to leave work, could not do her gift. She was an amazing young person. And was just, when I tuned in, and she did reach out for help, when I tuned in, she was feeling the emotions of mass consciousness. And that happens to the best of us. But what if you don't know that that's what you're feeling? Then you personalize it and think it's your stuff. And then it doesn't go away because it's not your stuff.
It can be as severe as like agoraphobia. People think
it can be very severe, debilitating. Yeah, and pain can be debilitating. The pain, the fear, the anxiety, the depression can be debilitating. So I think it's because the percentage of people is growing that are becoming spiritually gifted with their, what I call clairs, like clairsentience, clairvoyance, clairaudience, etc. Then it's really important for them to be able to use their skills rather than, be at the whims of whatever's going on in the world.
Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely. So amazing. I'm glad you're doing this. I'm so happy that you're doing this work because there's just so many people out there. I remember when I first started working, I would like with people, I was just like, why are people coming in so depressed? Like they were so depressed to the point where they've actually been committed. And, and then they're out now and I'm working with them and they're telling me about their life. And I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, 1-on-1 is not equaling 2. Like what they've experienced should not be bringing this out in them. And it was only then when I was starting to realize that, wait a second, they're not feeling their stuff, they're feeling everybody else's stuff. And so when we were able to separate, like a lot of what you're doing, harnessing that superpower, when they were able to do that, it was like most of the depression was gone. Right? Because they realize that it's like carrying out somebody else's mail. You're accepting someone else's mail. It's not yours, right? So that's so super cool. So I'm so glad that you're doing this work. It's so needed.
Thank you. And I notice, how the whole law of attraction works. I notice there's a lot more media of teachers talking about, like the superhuman film. Now there's a superpower film, a lot of other books, the word superpower, superhuman, like really that acknowledgement that we have these other gifts that are not taught in school or at home. That if we learn to hone them and harness them, then we can really, like weather magic, for example, is something we're teaching in the Light Warrior Training Camp. And we just had a hurricane, in the Florida region, and several of my students are in that region. So usually what happens is we get a little call out for weather magic from the whole group. We do our thing, and then usually the storm goes around them. Or becomes much more light where they are. We had one, I think it was, I can't remember what the name of that hurricane. There's so many we've done. There was one that was going to hit Boca Raton a number of years ago. It was supposed to be 8 feet under, like their house was supposed to be 8 feet underwater. And the student was like, help, right? So it was really interesting. It was coming right for Boca Raton. They said it's going to be destroyed. And what happened was the storm split into 2 and went around her. She got a little bit of rain, and that was it. She's like, "Thank you, everyone. Thank you." Anyway, so it's super fun having these, learning these superpowers.
Absolutely, and this is the whole reason for all the work that we're doing together is to realize that we can do so much. We've just been conditioned to believe that we can't, and we put all these limits together. And beautiful teachers like Karen and all of the other teachers that we have are there to help you unleash and unwind those wounds and unleash those powers and just really be able to bring them into your life, because it's not just certain people that can do it. It's innate in all of us, right? So it's really about being able to tap into that and not say, well, not me. Of course yes, you, right? So say yes and not no, like, yes, you. What do you think are the biggest mistakes that sensitive souls might make to prevent them from experiencing joy, peace, harmony, health?
Yeah. So I think one thing, I call it a mistake, but basically it's a misperception. And the misperception is that there's something wrong with them, that they need to be fixed. And because they've heard they're, oftentimes growing up, stop being so weird, stop being so sensitive, grow thicker skin. I remember my ex-husband saying that, although he did help me grow thicker skin, but but it was like this weird, like, why are you so weird? Like, why are you so sensitive? And so we get sometimes when we don't have supportive family or teachers or friends around us, we think there's something wrong with us. Now, I had a 14-year-old boy come into the office one time, and he was hitting his sister and his stepsister, and mom was ready to move him back to dad's house, right? But he came in and he's kind of sheepish, and he thinks he's in trouble, right? Like, oh, mother's taking me to this doctor, right? So I talked to him, and I immediately realized it was a sensitive soul, and he was just full of energy of other people's stuff, and so he would explode, and he would be,
Right.
violent in the house. So I told him, I'll call him Sam. His name is something else, but anyway, I said, so Sam, um, there's nothing wrong with you. And he just kind of looked up and was like, what? I got his attention. So there's nothing wrong with you. I think that you're pretty gifted. So you can feel a lot of energies and a lot of stuff. Do you ever, when you go to school, do you ever come home feeling like like you got pent up stuff? He goes, yeah, I feel like I'm going to explode. And I said, yeah, well, you know what? You're feeling other people's stuff. So that's one of the reasons that, this is happening. So we introduced the clearing and protection spray formula, which is a freebie. And the mother, basically, we did a demo on the mother, right? And the mother's like, oh, okay, Sam, can you spray your mom? And he did. And we turned around and said, do you want to try it? And he's like, yeah. So we sprayed him, and we giggled a little bit because, made him wet. And I said, well, how do you feel? And he goes, I feel calm, which is so funny coming from this 14-year-old, right? So I said, tell you what, I would like to ask you a favor. If mom comes home stressed, would you be willing to spray her? Just if she asks you to. And he goes, yeah, I would do that, right? So it's this empowering, but, and I said, well, and if you ever come home from school and you kind of feel like things are going to explode, you can always ask too, if you want to get sprayed. And he's like, okay. Right. So he went home thinking, okay, that's not me. It's like, I'm just talented. And I only got to work with him once. Okay. But I talked to the mom a couple of weeks later, and he's doing great. She didn't ship him off to dad. He didn't have his sister. And one time he came home and said, Mom, I'm going to explode. Spray me. And so he had that wherewithal to ask that. So that's, one mistake is that we think there's something wrong with us. Instead of thinking we're gifted, we think we're cursed. So the other thing is just not knowing what is us and what isn't us. So that discernment piece. And that's why, we'll go through today a little bit of the, stillness on the fly, the stillness through observing internal movement, because it's wonderful for manifesting what you want versus what you don't want. To be in this space is kind of like my quickie way of meditating without meditating. And it works for me. And we really get to know ourselves in that space and be able to discern my stuff, not my stuff, my stuff, not my stuff, right? Because sometimes I'll wake up and then partway through the day, I'll start getting kind of rah, 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 and then I'll stop, or my husband will go like, what's going on with you? And I'm like, I'll stop and I go, wait a second, is this my stuff? Right? And of course I'll test and I'm like, oh, okay, I'm empathizing with mass consciousness. Okay. So in my neck of the woods, what happens is I clear me and I clear mass consciousness. So there's a way in which to do that. It's beyond what we're talking about today. So as a healer, sometimes I have that responsibility level. So I'll heal things for the whole world or earth if necessary. And then, so having that discernment is really helpful. Divine muscle testing is really helpful for that as a skill, as well as stillness through observing internal movement, getting to know yourself. And the third, mistake that people have is that they don't realize that it is necessary for us to clear our fields, our energy fields. Sometimes stuff gets stuck on us. it's not a big deal, but it's like saying, well, I took a shower and then I'm done for the rest of the year. Like, no.
Nope.
You know, I mean, even if you're sitting in your house not doing anything, I mean, stuff comes into your awareness. And I mean, there are ways in which you can release faster and faster and faster for sure. But I think we need to be responsible for our energy fields. So we have, you know, several different ways of clearing. The clearing and protection spray is one of them. And I outlined that, I outlined that in the book. And we actually train that in the Light Warrior Training Camp, which is coming up in a couple of weeks. So that way you take care of yourself, just like brushing your teeth, showering, washing your hair. Like, it's just part of maintenance, and it doesn't take long. It takes like what, a minute, maybe 3 at the most, and you're done. So there's a lot of empowering things that even non-sensitive souls, because people are getting more and more sensitive. It's part of that empathetic evolution ascension process. So it's very good that we all learn these techniques and skills.
Awesome. And so what is it exactly? What are all, I mean, I know clearly, but what is the amazing things that you're teaching in IAUSM? What have you got going on? You've got a great group. You've got some wonderful courses. So let's talk about that for a second.
Yeah. So my group is Sensitivity is Your Superpower. So named after the book. And there's a free training in there called Introduction to Intuitive Decision Making, and Introduction to Divine Muscle Testing. So there you get the lowdown of how to do muscle testing about 6 or 7 different ways. It's basically a full course in and of itself. I actually expanded it last year to be included in a bigger course called the Intuitive Decision Making Roadmap. In the first module, which you get for free in IAUSM, is really about how to use your body, whether it be the sway test or, you know, your fingers. And we talk about other ways of, especially for sensitive souls, to make sure you are you before you test, because we get some mistakes sometimes and less accurate. So I have some techniques there, including STOEM, to get that, to get that more accurate. And then in modules 2, we talk about, so module 1 is really feeling it out, feeling your body, being able to use your body as a divine intuitive testing, process. And then module 2 is about correcting polarity challenges and proxying challenges. And polarity is when your energy is running backwards. And a lot of people that have really a lot of bad luck, yeah, that's what's going on. And you can even partially be reversed. It's very weird. I talk more about that in the program. And then proxying is really sort of like the empath thing we talked about, but literally your energetic body and sometimes physical body and other parts of you are actually the other person. So a full proxy, for example, would be I muscle test, someone, say their name is Michael. I muscle test them. It's not Michael. I had this kid, another kid one time, he was 17. He had this chronic neck pain, and he was convinced he had a tumor, right? His parents were like, what 17-year-old asked for all these medical tests, right? They were done, like they went to so many doctors and they couldn't find anything wrong with him. And finally came to me, and the first thing I do is just, do some muscle testing, check basic things. His polarity was fine. Yes was strong, no was weak. But then we checked his name. We'll call him Michael. And he wasn't Michael. I thought, interesting. So I used another name. Nope, not that either. I said, okay, so are you someone other than Michael? Yes. And I said, by the way, wait a second, you've had somebody die in your family. So we checked that. Wasn't them either. So I, using my spiritual investigative powers, I thought, okay, when? Okay, so when did this happen? So I started muscle testing through my body because he was not accurate in his body. And I found out it was when he was 2 years old. I said, did you hit your head when you were 2? No. It's like, okay, well, I'm getting that it was 2. And what happened was a little old lady who had died, her ghost had attached to his neck. And there was nothing like she was trying to hurt him or anything. She just was like, I said, are you sure nothing happened when you were 2? And he goes, nope. I said, okay. So anyway,
I probably didn't know because he was 2.
I know. I said, how do I explain this to mom, right? Because I'm like, she didn't come to me talking about, is there a ghost? So anyway, so I said to her, look, I got that there was a spirit that was not trying to harm him, but was just concerned. I was just curious if he had some sort of accident or something like that at age 2, because he said he didn't. She emails back and she goes, OMG, he fell off the counter, hit his head really hard, rushed him to the ER. So that's when she attached. So, so we gently healed the ghost, filled the holes. He stopped having neck pain. He stopped being a hypochondriac. He stopped asking to go to doctors and getting scans. And Mom said, this is the first time I've seen him smile in years. So went back to school, did great. Haven't seen him since,
It's amazing how this happens. You and I do a lot of similar works in different ways, but it is really amazing how this happens. And, just even one of the other ways, we've all done it, right? Where we'll say, we reach sort of some crossroads in our life, and we'll say something like, oh my God, would something help me? I just need some help, right? And we'll say something like that, and we don't realize that we've just opened ourselves up to anything and everything to just come and land in because it wants to, because we're just like, somebody come help me, something come help me. And so it's just really, it's important to to understand what we're doing all day long and what we're bringing into our world. That's amazing, Karen.
Yeah, being specific is fairly helpful. In module 3 in the intuitive decision making roadmap, we teach you another method that you don't need your muscles to use. It's called it's an internal muscle testing. I coin the term internal muscle testing. And then the 4th is actually intuitive impressioning, which we're also doing as one of the many modules in the Light Warrior Training Camp. And that's a great way to be able to tap in or feel in to something. So like I can feel into it's not invasive. Like I'm not changing anything. It's just a way of tuning into someone. Like if you want to get your mother, the best, Christmas present or something, you know what I mean? You could tune in to go, well, how would she feel if she got this present? Right. So I've done this multiple times. My father is really hard to buy for, but anyway, my mom, super easy. Right. Yeah. And she's very intuitive too. So I'll get her the right color, the right style, all that kind of stuff. And, when I tune into Dad, I hear, I don't want anything. Anyway, but you can do this for job situations, right? Like when to ask your boss for a raise. I mean, intuitive impression can be really great. So we teach you in that course all the different ways that you can tune into intuitive information, in addition to, of course, the muscle testing.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. It's so great. I've tried to keep my mouth shut while you're doing this because I have so much that I get out of it. I'm just like, be quiet. It's just so fascinating, right? It's just so fascinating, and all of the things, just so many good things. Anyways, so I've got one more here for you. What is the number one piece of advice that you, for spiritually conscious people, can take action on today that would transform their lives and make things better for them?
Yeah, great. What I'd love to do is do just a little, it takes more time to explain it than to do it, the stillness through observing internal movement technique. It's outlined a lot in the book. And of course, we're training that in the Light Warrior Training Camp that's coming up. And in the space, because, we titled this Tuning into Your, Manifesting Powers, being you and having all your energy circuits in the present moment. And many, very famous authors has talked about being present. I never understood what that meant. I was like, okay, I'm thinking about nothing. Oh, yes, I am. Nope, I'm thinking, no. And I never really got it because I'm so clairsentient. It has to be through the body for me to get the most impact, because I feel other people's stuff very easily. And I just, feel energetic shifts really easily. So why not turn that on its head and make it the actual process? So stillness through observing internal movement helps us get into that calm, peace, harmony within ourselves. From that place, you can actually go into your future ideal reality. And we'll train that in a lot of detail in the Light Warrior Training Camp. So we call that a quantum jump. When we go from here, a current non-ideal reality where there's war and strife, etc., to that ideal reality of peace, harmony, and prosperity and love for all. And then it's actually an amazing process. But we have time today to do a little bit of this process. So anybody that's, interested in learning this, I'm going to start kind of like the beginner stage. I know there's a lot of people on the call that already know this, but
yeah, let's give it a try. We've got a few minutes. Let's do this.
Yeah, let's do it. Okay, so what we want to do is make sure you can actually feel energy in your body. So one of the things we do as a starter, you don't have to do this every time because you get really good at it. is that you rub your hands or stamp your feet or just get kind of active, like move around, jiggle if you want. You can dance in your living room if you want, okay? Just for a few seconds. And then close your eyes. Normally you don't have to close your eyes, but for this, the beginners, we usually close your eyes and we'll have you feel. Step number 1 is feel the inside of your body, kind of like inside the skin in your body. Feel for energy, feel for something moving, feel for something flowing. And then what you're going to do next is focus and feel, and then follow the flow of the energy. And sometimes you'll feel it just in your hands. Sometimes you'll feel it traveling up your arms. Sometimes you'll feel it in your legs. See if you can kind of examine different parts of your body. And if you don't have any flow in certain parts, you can just kind of just focus on the no flow. But just keep following your body, where it is, where the flow is, where the energy is going to. Keep going. And it might change quality, it might change location, and it may get more subtle because now you're not moving as much. See if you can tune in even closer to see where the energy is going. See if you can open your eyes and see if you can still feel some energy in your body moving. Where is it? What's the quality of that? No judgment here. So even if you have started with a pain in an area of the body, we're not going to call it pain. We're just going to call it that sensation. And you can even check in what that sensation is, where the energy. Is there energy there? Isn't there energy there? And then I know sometimes people are like, oh, it's hard to concentrate when you're talking. It's like, well, actually, that would be stillness on the fly. So that's a little bit more advanced. And we're actually in the light warrior training camp, a little bit of a sneak peek here. We actually purposefully give you environmental cues to distract you, to see if you can still feel it in your body, whatever's going on. And that is it. That is the simple process. Stillness through observing internal movement. Very, very simple process. And what I've found is that I get better results from doing this for 1 to 3 seconds at a time, maybe 3 minutes at the most, that I'm consciously going, oh yeah. And just throughout the day. And what I find is I'm luckier. I see more synchronicities. Things happen my way better. More money comes in. I mean, it's really cool. It's really cool. So this is, I think, the number one thing that Sensitive Souls can do, which is easy, it's quick, it's free, and that's something that you'll see in the bonus as well, an actual, 30-minute training of this.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Right?
My pleasure.
You're giving away 3 ways of navigating your way to a more peace, positivity, and personal power. So you guys are going to be getting that in your loot bag. So that's great. So you'll see that on Monday. Awesome. Thank you so much, Karen. Thank you for all that you do. And thank you for being a part of IAUSM. We're blessed to have you. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. I'm blessed to be here. Thanks for your leadership, Ayse.
Thank you.